So did you guys catch this white guilt article in the New York Times? I mean, folks, this is honestly a masterpiece. This is the work of our generation. I mean, white people, they shouldn't even be allowed to show their face in public after this. That's how much of a mic drop it is. Actually, no. I'm looking at this. I'm still not convinced this is not satire, to be perfectly honest. You know, I saw this thing and I said, okay, we have to get out of the house for this one. Let's check. Is the economy still booming? Yep. Is black unemployment still at record lows? Yep. Omarosa still frying up nothing burgers? Yep, okay. So then we're going to step out of the house to tackle this beauty in the racist rag known as the New York Times, explaining, how do I cure myself of my white guilt? I will show you how. All right, so to set this up, this woke college student who has the great misfortune of being white writes into the New York Times seeking help over how can I cure my white guilt. And I just want to read you some of this letter because this is not a joke. This person in this goes by the name Whitey. Get it? Because the person is white. And when you're a progressive, of course, the color of your skin is your only identifier, unless, of course, you are gay. So Whitey writes, "Dear Sugars," Sugars? It's creepy. What is this, like a sex cult? "Dear Sugars, I'm riddled with shame. White shame. Now, this isn't helpful to me or anyone, especially people of color. I just feel like there's no me outside of my white, upper middle class, cisgender identity. I feel like my literal existence hurts people, like I'm always taking up space that should belong to someone else. Now, I consider myself an ally. I research proper etiquette, read writers of color, vote in a way that will not harm people of color, I doubt it, and other vulnerable people. And I engage in conversations about privilege with other white people. I take courses that will further educate me. I donated to Black Lives Matter. Hold up, we have a hero on our hands, it appears. Yet I fear that nothing is enough. And I don't talk about my feelings because it's hard to justify doing so while people of color are dying due to systemic racism. And instead of harnessing my privilege for greater good, I'm curled up in a ball of shame, thinking, how can I be more than my heritage? Well, I don't know, you could perhaps start by not calling yourself, Whitey? But we'll get to my advice in a second. Instead of throwing this letter in the garbage where it belongs, the New York Times advice columnists Cheryl Strayed and Steve Allman actually responded with, sage advice like, well, you have to relinquish your privilege. Oh, wait, that's all you have to do? I should probably tell my straight white male friends who have been told they are privileged because they're white, no. All you have to do is just relinquish it. It's that easy. Now, Mr. Allman goes on to say, now that you're living in a community that at 75% white roughly mirrors that of the American population, you're feeling the full force of what it means to be white in a white supremacist culture. And it makes you feel uncomfortable. Oh, does it? Now, we don't have a white supremacist culture. If anything, black culture has a disproportionate influence in our movies, in our music, in our news. So stop trying to act like it's the 1960s. It's 2018 here. But I digress. Cheryl at the New York Times continues, what you really feel is trapped within an identity that marks you inescapably as an oppressor. And this feeling is especially acute right now, I suspect, because you're suddenly immersed in a milieu. Oh, crap, SAT word alert here, milieu. And that's one of those words that you have to kind of hold your mouth open after you say, like, milieu, because that's how you let people know that you're the real deal. Milieu that reflects your privilege back to you. Okay. I mean, they answered it. We shouldn't even have to dignify this little twerp named Whitey with a response, but since the advice columnist at the New York Times did, I guess I will too. Here it goes. Dear Whitey, have you considered checking into a mental hospital? That might be the best cure for you because something is seriously wrong with you. And while you're at it, bring some history books along with you. They might teach you that your white privilege is a complete myth. So stop dividing this country with your phony, made-up crap. Let me tell you something. Try telling a white person in rural Mississippi who is scraping to make ends meet and feed their family that they are the privileged ones. Try telling them that they have more privilege than, Beyonce or LeBron James James or Don Lemon or any of the even single mothers who are on welfare who don't have to work. Of course there are plenty of blacks who aren't privileged, just as there are plenty of whites who aren't privileged. It's not about the color of your skin. And why do white liberals insist on feeling like they have to be responsible for the things of our past that they had nothing to do with? I'm tired of this. Well, you know, it's not about us today. It's about all the terrible things we have done to black people in the past. Why? Was it you who enslaved black people in the 16th and 17th centuries? No. Was it you personally who segregated blacks in the 1960s? Given that you're just getting to college now, Whitey, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say no. All white people are not responsible for the wrongdoing of all white people in the past, just as, for instance, I am not responsible for all the crimes black people have committed in America's past. Today, people of color, we're doing better than ever in this country. Unemployment for blacks is the lowest it has ever been. You can thank President Trump for that, by the way. Hispanic numbers are at the lowest they've ever been. You can thank President Trump for that as well. Well over a quarter of the people on the world's highest paid celebrities list are people of color. We just had a black president. Black people are thriving in America, and it's going to continue to get better. And it's not because, you read the proper etiquette, and you read the esteemed writers of color and donate to Black Lives Matter, or whatever the hell you said. The unemployment numbers are so low because government has gotten out of the way when it comes to the workplace and allowed all people, not just blacks, to thrive, but including blacks. But if you want to talk about privilege, why don't we talk about black privilege, all right? Do you think black people don't get perks from things like affirmative action? I mean, blacks don't have to perform nearly at the same level to get into the top colleges as whites. You can be a less than ideal applicant for a top college and still get the spot because you are a person of color. There are all sorts of social programs that benefit black people only, and for some, you don't even have to work. You don't have to do a thing. You just get free money and you can just sit there. There are diversity programs at corporations all across this nation that ensure a not as qualified person of color gets the job over the qualified white candidate because the company needs to meet some diversity quota. Black people, they also have the upper hand when it comes to things like getting recruited for athletic scholarships. And there are plenty of scholarships that only black people can obtain. Let's look at some of them here. The African American Teachings Fellow, American Association of Blacks in Energy Scholarship, Blacks at Microsoft Scholarship. Can't even read all these because they're just word salad. But is that what you call white privilege? In fact, there would be widespread outrage if there were scholarships only white people could apply for. People have built careers off of racial grievances. You can become a congresswoman and be dumb as bricks, like, I don't know, Maxine Waters. You can be a totally unqualified junior senator, like Barack Hussein Obama, and become the president of the frickin' United States because of the color of your skin. Oh, by the way, you can commit a crime and get off the hook when you scream that the only reason you're being punished is because the other people are racist and you didn't really do it. So don't complain to me about white privilege. If you're Hispanic, by the way, you can kill Kate Steinle and get let off scot-free because of stupid sanctuary policies that benefit illegal aliens. But if you're a white cop who shoots a black man in self-defense after he tried to grab your weapon, oh, then you're the villain. Is that white privilege? Is that the white privilege you're talking about? So along with your history books, Whitey, you might want to, I don't know, pack a dictionary too, because guilt is, quote, the feeling of deserving blames for offenses. You haven't committed any offenses. Being white is not an offense, buddy. You're not guilty of anything other than being an imbecilic waste of space, and I am done with you. That's honestly what Cheryl and Steve should have told Whitey. But then again, I'm not a writer for the New York Times. Maybe it's because I don't hate white people. I mean, the amount of anti-white hate at that place is astonishing. Because remember, they've got cancel white people, Sarah Jung, and people who write columns about, can my son be friends with a white person? The hostility to white folks at that place is quite honestly astounding. And it is truly shocking that this kind of drivel can be found in a mainstream paper. Maybe it's time more people start treating the New York Times like the racist rag that it is.